Congresswoman Pressley, do you support... Sir, get my phone out of my hands. Sir, Congresswoman Pressley, do you support President Trump investigating Somali child care fraud in Minnesota? Congresswoman Pressley.
Okay, welcome back. That was the husband of far-left Democrat squad lawmaker Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Her husband slapped the phone out of a reporter's hands on Monday after he was asking simple questions about rampant fraud in Minnesota. We should point out Pressley's husband has previously spent 10 years in prison on felony drug trafficking charges.
It looks like Ilhan Omar isn't the only millionaire squad member. Our team dug into open secrets and financial disclosure reports. What we found is that when Ayanna Pressley was elected to Congress back in 2018, she had a negative net worth. You fast forward to today, she's worth $1.3 million with assets worth up to $8 million. Now that's a massive increase in just 6 years, especially for someone on a $174,000 congressional salary. It's impressive, really. But how did she do it?
So remember the video I did a few days about Ilhan Omar's mysterious jump to millionaire status, where her husband's businesses went from basically nothing to tens of millions of dollars in asset value overnight? Well, it turns out this is not an isolated incident. Rep. Ayanna Pressley, sharp-tongued, allergic to the BS, except apparently on her own BS, just as her 2024 financial disclosure dropped. And folks, the numbers are absolutely wild. We're talking about a woman who entered Congress in 2019 with $12,000 to her name. Fast forward 6 years, and now she's sitting at $8 million in assets, all while collecting $174,000 a year on a government salary, just like Omar. And here's the kicker. While she's out there camping out on Capitol steps, demanding tax-funded rent relief for struggling tenants, she was quietly building a real estate empire and collecting rent checks from her own properties, including, I cannot make this up, $1 million vacation home on Martha's Vineyard.
Pressley reported owning a Martha's Vineyard rental worth up to $5 million, as well as multiple Boston rentals worth up to $1 million each. Now, for context, back in 2019, she only reported owning one property in Boston.
I guess she became one of the elites. Let's get into it. So, all right, these are the numbers straight from Pressley's 2024 financial disclosure, and these are public records, by the way. This is not any speculation. This is what she reported. So, in 2019, when Pressley took office, she had about $12,000 in assets. She had one rental property valued between $500,000 and $1 million. But in 2024, her current disclosure, she has up to $8 million in total assets. $8 million. In 2024 alone, her and her husband, Conan Harris, pulled in up to $300,000 from rental income and property sales. So let's break down, where is this money coming from? Because the details matter. I guess she is building a very impressive real estate portfolio. First, they own up to 4 rental properties in Massachusetts. A $1.1 million 3-bedroom home in Martha's Vineyard, you know where the Obamas and Martha Stewart have homes. This property alone generates between $15,000 to $50,000 in rental income in 2024. She also has a 2-unit rental property in a predominantly Black low-income neighborhood in Boston that also brings in about $50,000 to $100,000 in rent last year. She also has 2 additional rental properties, each generating between $15,000 and $50,000. And then there's property sales. They bought a condo in Fort Lauderdale and flipped it after just over a year for a $67,000 in profit. But wait, there's more. Her husband has some kind of management consulting business, which he conveniently started 3 days before Pressley took office in January 2019. That also has generated between $100 and $1 million in income last year. Now, here's where it really gets interesting. The timeline. So Conan Harris spent about 10 years in federal prison for drug trafficking. He got out, worked his way into public safety advisor position at Boston City Hall under then Mayor Marty Walsh, making $92,000 a year. Pretty good for him. I mean, second chances, redemption story, all that. But then something fascinating happens. January 2019, Ayanna Pressley gets sworn into office. 3 days later, Conan Harris leaves his stable city job and launches his own consulting firm. And by 2021, just 2 years later, he is making $350,000 a year. more than triple his government salary. By 2022, he's earning up to $1 million.
And as we read more of the Congresswoman's financial disclosure reports, we learn that her husband also saw his income jump while he was in Washington. His client list consists of some government organizations, including one with deep ties to the Obama Foundation. But as he started his firm and seeked new clients, he faced ethics concerns because of Pressley's job in Congress. Quote,
now, again, we're not suggesting she's going in and stealing funds or anything like that. But the fact is she got rich off of her contacts in government. Her husband got rich consulting with members of the business community and others, perhaps some people who were taking grants. That's, by the way, we saw that with Lee Zeldin, the EPA commissioner.
And by 2024, his income is listed between $100,000 and $1 million, which means it could be at the top end of that range. So now you have to ask yourself, what exactly does a former incarcerated drug trafficker turned manager consultant offer that's worth $1 million a year? And more importantly, who are his clients? That information is not disclosed. We don't know who's paying him. We don't know if any of these clients have business before Congress or before Presley's committees. Very convenient, don't you think? So here's where this goes from ethically questionable to you gotta be kidding me. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, Pressley was one of the loudest voices demanding rent cancellation.
My colleagues, my brothers and sisters in service, to reintroduce the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. This is bold legislation that meets the moment and affirms housing as the fundamental human right that it is. Yesterday, I was proud to support the American Rescue Plan to send critical relief to the millions of workers and families struggling to make ends meet during this pandemic. But make no mistake, our work is not over, and it must continue.
In December 2020, she tweeted, "We must cancel rent, extend eviction and foreclosure moratoriums, provide rental assistance, and offer legal representation for those at risk of eviction." She introduced the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act in 2021. If it passed, it would force the federal government to reimburse landlords for unpaid rent using taxpayer money. Now, here's a question no one asked at the time. Did Ayanna Pressley cancel rent for her tenants during the pandemic? Her office refused to answer. Multiple news outlets asked, and all they had was crickets. But we do know this. In 2020, she disclosed between $5,000 and $15,000 in rental income. In 2019, before the pandemic, she disclosed the same range, between $5,000 and $15,000. The exact same numbers. So while she's at the Capitol steps with a megaphone demanding other landlords stop collecting rent, she appears to be collecting her own rent checks the entire time. And get this, her proposed legislation, including a landlord relief fund, would have prioritized landlords with the fewest available amount of assets. Translation, she would have gotten taxpayer money to reimburse herself for the rent that she supposedly canceled. Talking about having your cake and eating it too. Now let's talk about Martha's Vineyard, because this deserves its own spotlight. In September 2022, Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, sent 50 Venezuelan migrants to Martha's Vineyard to make a point about sanctuary cities and immigration policy. Within 48 hours, no migrants were kicked out by the National Guard. The same people who put "hate has no home here" signs in the backyards couldn't handle 50 people showing up unannounced. They called it a humanitarian crisis and shipped them off to some kind of military base on Cape Cod. Now, Pressley was really angry about this stunt. She condemned it as being really cruel and inhumane, using people as political pawns. And then just a few months later, in 2023, her and her husband bought a $1.1 million vacation home on that same island. The same island that couldn't find room for 50 migrants found room for a squad member's vacation property. You literally cannot make any of this up. Now, here's why this matters just beyond Ayanna Pressley. This is becoming a pattern for many people in Congress, especially with the squad members. Ilhan Omar, I've already covered this in detail about her husband's businesses that came from basically nothing to $30 million in undisclosed assets, the winery, the whole 9 yards. It was just a bunch of nonsense. Now we got Ayanna Pressley starting with $12,000 now, sitting on $8 million. Some kind of consulting business her husband is doing that we have no idea what he's actually doing. Then you also have Cori Bush. Her husband's security company was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by her campaign. Obviously, she's no longer in Congress because she lost her primary, but you see that pattern was there. These are the same people who campaign on being champions of the working class, who rail against home inequality, who talk about eating the rich and dismantling capitalism. And yet somehow their wealth skyrockets the moment they start getting access to any kind of power. Their spouses, who in some cases have criminal records or no clear expertise, suddenly become millionaires on their own and becoming very successful business owners. Are we all supposed to believe that all this is legitimate? That there's no connection between political access and sudden financial windfalls? Come on. Now, Presley's office did respond to some questions about this, and their answer is pretty interesting. They said that Presley and her husband keep their finances separate, that conflating his income with her is misleading, and they have navigated significant economic hardship, including medical debt, incarceration, and predatory student debt. So let's address this. First, they're married. Financial disclosure forms require reporting spousal income. That's not conflating, that's the law. Second, they may have faced hardships. Many people have. But that doesn't explain how you go from those hardships to $8 million in 6 years on a government salary. Third, the spokesperson said that Pressley is a steadfast champion for economic justice and opportunity for every family. Her record speaks for itself. And you know what? They are right about one thing. Her record does speak for itself. It speaks volumes. So look, this is the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. I'm just messing around. I don't begrudge anyone for building wealth. I don't care if you're worth $8 million or $80 million. Good for you, fantastic. But when you build that wealth while preaching about income inequality, while condemning capitalism from your Martha's Vineyard vacation home, while your spouse's business mysteriously explodes the second you get political power, people are going to start asking questions. And people are going to demand receipts. I mean, come on. This is just ridiculous. But let me know what you guys think about this story in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.